What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. I want to revisit Wildstalker Feral Druid, which is something I actually covered several weeks ago, but I'm going to revisit it now because they've had some changes in the patch notes and I've had some more time to play around with it, and I just wanted to do a quick video to talk about why I love this thing so much and why I think you should seriously consider playing it if you've never played Feral Druid before. Feral Druid, first of all, cosmetically, aesthetically, I think being a cat is like one of the coolest things ever. And I know a lot of other people feel the same way. There's so many different cat forms now, and I actually just unlocked a bunch of new cat forms with my Legion artifact weapon stuff that I was doing. I hadn't quite done that yet, and I've unlocked a few more forms. So I'm really excited to try those out and to just like enjoy being a kitty. And I think like, I don't know, there's just so many cool things about being a cat. So aesthetically speaking, I just kind of love that, and I like to, obviously you don't get to see the transmog of like whatever you're wearing with your tier set bonuses, which also looks very, very cool for Druid, by the way. But kitty forms are very fun and interesting to me, and I like that you can actually go get more of them if you want to. Second to that, being a Feral Druid, your movement speed is really strong, and as a melee character, having really, really fast movement speed can actually be a big deal. There's lots of dungeon and raid environments where you're going to need to run away from a mechanic really, really quickly, and you can do that pretty fast as a Feral Druid. You're always moving quicker because of feline swiftness, and then you have things like Roar to move your entire party, or you have your really quick Tiger Dash to get around somewhere if you need to. So being a fast melee character is always really, really strong, whether you're in combat or out of combat, and Feral Druid kind of gets that in spades. So that's really fun, and I like that really good. It also can keep you safer when it comes to those mechanics. Feral also has really good defensives. We get Bark Skin, of course, just like everybody else does, which is a 1 minute cooldown, but you also get Survival Instincts, which is very strong. That's a 60% DR. That'll really help to handle any of the heavy hitting abilities that are coming in. That'll absolutely keep you safe. And then you have so much sustain with regrowth, and of course, every time you cast a combo point spending ability, you're going to make your regrowth free, which is really, really cool. I actually don't know where that is on the tree anymore. Oh, here it is. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to make your next regrowth or entangling roots instant, free, and castable in all forms. And when you combine that with the Wildstalker tree, which we'll talk about in a minute, this gives you 50% more regrowth healing. So your regrowths actually hit really hard. That's a 400k heal, and then I'm going to heal myself over time. On top of that, you get an extra heal from Well-Honed Instincts. When you fall below a certain amount of health, you get Frenzied Regen. You can pop into bear form and get Frenzied Regen healing if you want as well. You have your Adaptive Swarms, which you can put on yourself, which are going to further buff your self-healing once again. There's an 800k regrowth, so your defensives and your sustain are really, really high. You still have things like Renewal as well. And I think that that cannot be understated, that every time you use a combo point finisher, you're getting a free instant regrowth that'll keep you going. And I think that's really strong. And it's one of those things that we don't always talk about, which is nice. Obviously, Feral Druid, of course, also has a Druid buff, and you have Battle Res that you bring, which is really strong and helpful for your team, no matter what you're doing. And then on top of that, I just really enjoy some of the buttons that you get as Feral, like Convoke and Adaptive Swarm. They're really fun buttons to press. Convoke is one of the coolest abilities in the entire game. It just feels really cool. It does a lot of damage now. It's awesome. I really enjoy it a lot, so that's awesome too. Finally, you've got Crowd Control for days. You've got Ursul's Vortex. You've got Typhoon. You can take Mass and Tangle if you want. You've got Soothe for enemies that need to be soothed, which is really good. You have extra Roar utility for your group. You can Cyclone enemies as well. There's a new Xalatath mechanic that requires you to do an AoE CC on these mobs to break them out, and then they give you a haste buff. You can do that with in-cap Roar, sorry. You can do it that way, or you can do it with Typhoon. So you have multiple options and ways to contribute to your team in a Mythic Plus environment in particular to help out with these kinds of mechanics that are going on. Let's look at the actual dungeon in a second here. Wildstalker is the tree that I'm enjoying the most, and the one that I think, like, if I'm gonna play Feral Druid, if it ends up being like one of my main or my main DPS that I'm thinking of playing, which this is in the top running right now for being one of my mains in terms of DPS. I do like Wildstalker a lot. I don't like Druid of the Claw very much, but it might grow on me eventually. Right now, Wildstalker is really, really cool because you get to pop these vines with bursting growth. Whenever a Bloodseeker vine expires or you hit Ferocious Bite on it, it will explode, and that is something that becomes really, really strong when you're trying to do extra damage with this tree. It's a little mini game that you get to play, which I think is awesome, and it really makes Feral Druid feel awesome to me. It gives it that extra little flavor that you're kind of looking for, excuse me. And sometimes you don't always get that with some of these hero trees. Some of the hero trees are passive and they're kind of boring. And I think that this hero tree with Wildstalker, it's passive, but it's not boring because it gives you that extra little mechanic that you need to do, that you need to work towards when you're in the Mythic Plus environment. You can see here, the damage is also really good, okay? This is with my Convoke double adaptive swarm build. We're doing 2.3 million at the opening with all of our cooldowns rolling. 2.5 mil. I think it starts going down here eventually, but my God, I mean, the damage of this thing is just crazy. We just annihilated that pack. Like, we just dumpstered that pack so hard, which was really, really cool. So I do think that Feral is also able to keep up with the damage profile of a lot of these other DPS that are doing crazy damage right now. Even something like an Arcane Mage, I think over the course of this key, I don't do as much damage as the Arcane Mage does, but Arcane Mage is just a little bit too pumped up right now. But you can see I have this little weak aura already that's showing me when I'm on a target that has my Vine. And when you're on a target with your Vine, if you're pressing Ferocious Bite on that target, it'll do extra damage. And that is the new little mini game that you're going to play as a Wildstalker Feral Druid. And I just think it's actually really fun. Like, you get all your bleeds going, and then you're looking for vines, and you're looking to bite the vines. And if you don't know, Feral Druid no longer does Primal Wrath as their filler. You're doing Ferocious Bite as your filler now, which is really cool. That's actually, I think, more exciting than just pressing Primal Wrath over and over again. But anyway, whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. You're biting these vines and they're exploding to do extra damage, which is really, really cool. So also we did about 100k HPS there. Once again, the sustain from this tree is really strong. Whenever you do put a regrowth on yourself, there's a chance that you'll put an extra vine, a helpful vine from the Wildstalker tree. So you get even more sustain from that, which is really good. And I think the vines actually hit incredibly hard, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it'll heal you for 115,000 over 6.8 seconds. So again, just a nice little touch there to give you more healing over time, while you're obviously getting more damage over time from the rest of the tree. You can see I'm spreading my rakes here, and then we get Thrash going. I've got my Blood Talons buff going. Blood Talons will show up on your bar right here. And then I've got my Rip into everybody with that Primal Wrath. And now I'm looking for my Vine target. So it takes you like 3 seconds or so, 4 seconds to set up your damage. And then you're looking for that Vine target. There, I've got it right there. I'm going to bite that Vine target. Now I'm looking, there's another Vine target. I got to redo my Primal Wrath here. But this is the kind of mini game that you get to play now. And of course, you're going to scale. Oh, I think I ran in here and died. This was hilarious. I was so gung-ho. I thought the tank was here. For some reason, I thought the tank was like right next to me. Oh, yeah. He just like didn't get this mob or something. He threw his keg at the other mob, I guess. That was really weird. Anyway, it doesn't matter. All right, we died. It was pretty funny. We just instantly died. But the damage is quite good. I'll show you the boss fight here. Oh, sorry. We'll back up a little bit. Back up a little bit. There we go. So our damage at the beginning is actually pretty good. Now, I think I used Convoke at the beginning, and I was debating whether or not to hold on to Convoke for the double damage window. There's no guarantee that it would have been better inside the double damage window, because you might not have gotten very many like Ferocious Bites. But I do think it's probably worth saving. With a 2-minute Convoke, it's debatable, right? Because I'm going to get my Convoke back up. Sorry, I just hit the mic. Off cooldown there, so it's debatable. But you can see we have a Vine on this guy the entire time. So every time we bite this guy, we're going to be getting the extra explosion damage as well, which is so good. And you can see our damage on this boss fight is really good. Like, we're just pumping. So I've been really impressed with the damage of Feral, even though the big problem with Feral is that they did dramatically nerf your energy regen. And it's been a bit of a struggle so far, I would say, energy-wise, to get Feral back into a place where you just feel like you're actually gaining anything. You're just not. Most of the time you're really struggling. So it just means you have to be a little bit more careful with your energy regen. You need to be careful how you're spending your combo points when you're spending them. You have to absolutely min-max every part of that to make sure that you don't overcap on your combo points or overcap on your energy. You have to be incredibly careful about that. That's the only real drawback to Feral. You can't just sort of turn your brain off and mindlessly, spam your abilities and hope that you're going to do a bunch of damage. It just doesn't work that way. I wish it did. I kind of enjoy the specs where I just get to turn my brain off and go zug zug, but this is one of the ones that you have to be a little bit more thoughtful about when you're playing it, and if you do, you'll be rewarded. You'll be rewarded greatly. So there's my damage on the first boss there. Again, lots of damage from Ferocious Bite and Rip, but look at my Bloodseeker Vine. That plus bursting growth, that did 18, almost 19% of our damage coming from my hero tree there. And I love that your adaptive swarm will actually buff the damage of your vine by 25%. And the vines hit really, really hard themselves. So yeah, this is a very serious candidate for me for being my top, like, main melee DPS that I'm going to be playing. There's always one DPS that I'm going to end up playing in an X-Pack at the beginning, and there's also going to be a healer that I end up playing. So this is my big potential main DPS that I'm thinking about for the War Within so far. There's a few more patches to go. Obviously, I need to think about it. But, I mean, the damage that we're able to pump out is just disgusting. This is with my Convoke and Berserk, and they're just blasting. We're just blasting. It feels really fun. I love Convoke. I love Swarm. I love being a kitty. The defensives are good. The Wildstalker tree is fun. There's just so many good things about Wildstalker Pharaoh right now. Yes, Druid of the Claw feels like a bit of a dud tree to me. I'm not really in love with this. Maybe I'll grow to love it later on. For now, though, I'm totally in love with Wildstalker, and I think it's a really, really good choice. If you haven't looked at Feral yet, and you're kind of interested in being a cat for maybe even just the first season of the expansion, or if you want to make this as one of your ults, I would highly recommend it right now. It is in a really good place in the beta. I think just across the board, it's in a fantastic position, and it's a very serious consideration for me as being my main DPS that I'm going to be starting with. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I just wanted to give you guys an update on how Wildstalker Feral was feeling. It's incredibly good. You should definitely check it out. Let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in the next one.